Good Monday morning. What is it, December 28th? I just noticed that the lights are shining on my shiny body head. So today I decided to switch back to the AirPods. Yeah, I was going to say because I didn't want to be fake using the fake microphone, but whatever it is. Whatever reason I decided to do it, that's where we're going with it. I got a lot to get off my chest today. So if you're willing to listen and maybe you get something from it. As you can see behind me, boundaries, that was the main thing that hit me last night after a couple of situations that I'm currently involved in. I did want to share, and this kind of goes along with the same thing as uh, something that was a kind of a life lesson for me. I don't know if I went through, I think I described why I get silent when I get accused of stuff. When I was younger, I was a rambunctious child. I got into stuff. And I think for the most part, I was always honest. So my dad was military police. So he knew how to question and, you know, truth detector. So, and I believed that for a while, but looking back, eh, he missed a few things. But so if I was involved with something as a child, I would tell you the truth. I would, if I didn't do it. But the questioning kept going because he was convinced that I did do it. And the process that happened was I don't even remember the cartoon or the show, but it was Briar Rabbit. And it was something about a rabbit and a briar patch. A briar patch has thorns and stuff. And they made a tar baby. So they made like a snowman or a thing out of tar. So somebody would punch it and get stuck or whatever. But anyway, it was made out of tar, so it didn't talk. So it frustrated the person, whatever cartoon character was talking to it, because it wouldn't respond. Well, that my dad would call me the tar baby because when I'm standing there telling you the truth and you keep telling me, you know, and I'm getting browbeat, I just stopped talking because I was like, I don't know what else to tell you. So then he was like, what are you, the tar baby? Well, then there was a situation where I did do something wrong. So I admitted to it. And the response was, well, since you were a man and you stood up and you took responsibility for what you did, just don't do it again. I was like, wow, wait a minute. When I'm not, when I didn't do something wrong and I try to tell the truth, I get browbeat. But when I tell the truth, I get let go. So uh, there are times, yin and yang, that sometimes you just got to suck it up. And if, for my benefit, I took responsibility for things I didn't do because it got me out of trouble, as weird as that may seem. So, in my love my dad, but in his infinite wisdom, uh, he wasn't always right. Uh, that kind of goes with and this is leading me into boundaries, which the next thing that comes to mind. There's a time where, let's say, you're an adult now, and you have a significant other, and they cook something, and you don't like it. This is your partner that you're going to spend the rest of your life with. So you should be able to tell them if you don't like something, and they should be able to accept it because you don't want to eat something you don't like for the rest of your life. And if that person loves you, they don't want to feed you something you don't like. Now, you go to your mom's house and she's cooking Christmas dinner or whatever, and you don't like something, and she asked, you don't tell her. You say you like it, right? Because you don't have to do it every so often, and you don't want to hurt your mom's feelings. So, there's a difference. So, we all communicate different. We all take things in differently, and the closer you are with someone, those types of communications change, and that has to do with boundaries. But I'm gonna get to that. The whole tar baby thing, and you call it triggers, pet peeves, red flags, whatever. I do have an issue when people blame me for stuff because I am so emphatic about taking full responsibility for everything for myself. Now, that I know there's a limit to that. I know not everybody does that, but that's how I decide how close I get to people. Now, if I punch you, if I knock something over, and you want to blame me for that, yes, I did it. Um, but if something else goes on, and I didn't intentionally, purposely, physically do something, and it caused something and something happened in your life, and you want to blame me, I have a small issue with that. And this is where the challenge for me is, because I've had people tell me, well, you're not as zen as you say you are. Well, I'm only human. But monks, I don't know if all of them do it, but there's ninja monks, kung fu monks that they'll kick your ass, right? So there's a yin and a yang. There's a line. There's a boundary. So, uh, which leads me, it's kind of to this next thing that I just want to get off my chest. That helping people, when to help, and it dawned on me that I was in a situation where I saw someone that needed help. And I was like, man, if that was me, I'd want somebody to reach out to me. Now, in an overall spectrum, yes. Now, in retrospect, looking back, I'm like, okay, why is this person in that situation where they need help? And what am I getting myself into? So, again, at that point, if I offer the help, if the help's not asked for, and that's two different things. If somebody asks, just because they ask doesn't mean that you're obligated to give it to them. And once you give it to them, for me, I take on full responsibility because I said yes. I could have said no. That's why I say it's okay to say no. On the other hand, when you reach out without it being asked, then I feel the burden of responsibility is a little bit even heavier on me. So I take full responsibility for that. Uh, Boundaries, I've heard of it before. It was mentioned before. Someone asked me once, well, I didn't want to cross the boundaries. I didn't know what boundaries I had. And this particular person, they were close to me. So I really didn't have any boundaries. You were, because you were close to me, it was, you're allowed to, you earned the right to do whatever you wanted to do. So last night I was thinking about it. Okay, so it's all relationships do have boundaries because I talk about it because a relationship with a coworker or a friend or a partner, a girlfriend, mom and dad, they're all a little bit different. So they had to have different boundaries. Some people are really close with family members. Some people are like, I can only spend so much time. So you have that boundary, you have that time limit, and I was trying to use, think of some analogies. Maybe some boundaries are just a line. So, if they cross the line, it's easy to cross and it's not that big of a deal. Some people you have to put up a little bit bigger boundary, right? You have to put like a fence. So it's harder for them to do. Some of them you have to put up a wall. Uh, some people you just want to stay completely out. But also that boundary, because life is in flux, because we're moving, you realize that the earth is spinning 1,000 miles an hour and we're hurling. We're not just spinning in one place in an orbit. We're going through space and creating a vortex. So anyway, so the boundaries move is my point. That when the situation happens, you're like, okay, you analyze it. Was this me? Was this them? Should I move this boundary? Should I increase the boundary? And it takes practice. Everything takes practice, over time. but you have to take the time to practice it and think about it. And you don't want to do it while you're at work or whatever, because you have to be in the moment. If you're working, you have to be in the moment. So if you really want to focus on a situation, you sit down quietly, turn the phone off, and just envelop that situation, and come to grips with it, put it in its place, and say, okay, this is what I'm going to do going forward for now, until I get more information, until things get, because things always change. So that's my yeah, that's my take on boundaries. What boundaries mean to someone else, I'm sure that's that would have a whole different definition. But I believe you do have to have you have to set those boundaries. The other person, depending on who it is, doesn't always need to know those boundaries. You need to know those boundaries for your own purpose, because this is all, again, yin and yang. When is it time to be selfish, and when is it time to think of others? Ultimately, you have to take care of yourself. You have to take care of your up here, because if you let things, if things are sticking back here and they're not in the right place and they're floating around like an asteroid in your head, what someone said or someone did, and then a trigger happens, and it could be someone innocent that it comes from, that had nothing to do with what happened to you in your past, because you never took care of that little asteroid going around in your head and put it in its place. You get triggered. And you don't want to do that. You want to get to a place where you say, okay, I recognize this. That feelings. It's very important to go by your feelings. That's a familiar feeling. Where's that feeling coming from? Well, if you have that put away where it's supposed to be, instead of just floating around, you're like, okay, why did that connect? Oh shit. Well, hopefully my volume didn't change. I don't know. I disconnected this stupid thing. Anyway, yeah, you have to put the stuff in its place. Oh, forget this device. Sorry. So it doesn't keep coming up, but it's always going to
there. It's there. Whatever is in your mind it's always there. It's just the recall. So you want to be in control, so that just doesn't pop up, and then you apply it to something that happened to you by someone 10 years ago, and you treat a person that's new in your life the same damn way that you respond to that person. That's unfair to the new person. It's unfair to yourself because it's not justified. But if something happens, then you have to say, okay, where does that come from? Is this the same situation? Is it the exact same thing? Let's see how this feels, and let's move on. So I came to some decent clarity last night, and I've mentioned this before. We don't want to come to a conclusion. We don't want to say, okay, that's it, I'm done. You want to gain more clarity. He says, okay, for now, that's done. That's got to go in the done pile. This person or this situation is, I'm done with it until something different comes up, and then you can analyze it again. I've got this vague flow chart in my mind of how things should go that I go through, but it's hard for me to put it on paper right now. And one day I will, and maybe it'll help others. As that is my goal, just to share what I do and what helps me, and maybe it'll help you. I guess I have to have a disclaimer all the time that this is Ron's choice. This is how I do it. This is what works for me. That's the deliciousness of life, and that's the purpose of life, is contrast. There has to be a night and day, and blah blah blah, and so on and so on, and that's why things are the way they are. I kept it a little bit shorter than yesterday, and I got it off my chest, and I feel good, and I'm gonna go get to work.